In the 31st episode of the American Reveille podcast, I discuss recent actions that have led me to believe that Antifa and Black Lives Matter must be called out by the President of the United States of America for what they truly are: well-funded and deeply connected international terrorist organizations. From beginning to end, I tie everything together, from the wildfires to Bill Clinton's connection to Black Lives Matter. I reveal a pattern that no one else wants you to see. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the 31st episode of the American Reveille podcast. Today is Monday, September 14th, and of course, I am James Lane. Folks, it's been an eventful week for us up here in Washington as the wildfires have basically turned the outside orange, at least for the last few days. That actually isn't a problem, but earlier in the week, we were definitely a little nervous when the fires came pretty close to the house here and knocked out the power and internet for 2 days. But thankfully, the joint firefighting units that are taking care of these blazes were able to knock them out, which we all greatly appreciate. But before we get into the episode, I kind of wanted to talk about the wildfires for a little bit. From the bottom of California to the top of Washington state, folks, horrible record-breaking fires are destroying the countryside, forcing the evacuation of over 500,000 people, and possible mass casualty events are yet to be discovered in Oregon. So, amid the blaze, what do the Democrats do? What do they do, folks? Well, they pass the buck, of course. This time to Mother Nature and, of course, us, the evil Republicans. According to Morgan Phillip of Fox News, the sky on much of the West Coast has been painted an eerie burnt orange, and flames have left entire towns in dust. Democrats lay blame on climate change as House Speaker Nancy Pelosi goes on record with, quote, "Mother Earth is angry. She's telling us. Whether she's telling us with hurricanes in the Gulf Coast, fires in the West, whatever it is, the climate crisis is real." Then, if you look a little closer, guys, you have Chuck Schumer with, quote, "If anyone needed any proof of how disastrously and quickly climate change is affecting our globe, just look out west." And finally, from the butcher of California himself, Governor Gavin Newsom, he had to say, quote, "The data is self-evident, the experience that we have in the state of California just underscoring the reality of the ravages of climate change," end quote. Newsom used the fires to really push for a more aggressive climate change goal, calling the state's already ambitious goal of using 100% clean energy by 2045, quote, inadequate. So, ladies and gentlemen, do you see what I see here? I see a group with something to gain from the wildfires, and this group is taking advantage of a tragedy, and they're doing it for political gain. Who in their right minds would do such a... Oh yeah, I forgot for a second. The left has been doing this plenty this year in 2020, especially as we get closer to the election. But what's really funny, and not in a ha-ha way, but in a type of way, is the immediate rejection of any arson claims. As soon as people talk about the possibility of arson or arsonists, they're immediately called a climate change denier and laughed at. So how do we ever get to the truth? So I decided to do a little bit of digging through multiple local and national news sources to really try to put the puzzle pieces together for us. So what do you say, folks? Let's go through some of these. From Kiro 7. Police arrest Puyallup man for starting a large wildfire. Quote, Puyallup police and state troopers arrested a 36-year-old Puyallup man Wednesday for allegedly starting a large brush fire which temporarily shut down State Route 167 and several ramps near Meridian Avenue. This next one's from The Hill. 44-year-old man charged with arson in an Oregon fire. Quote, authorities in Southern Oregon charged a 44-year-old man, Jason Mass, with first-degree arson after he allegedly started a fire in the woods near the Frisbee Golf Course at Dexter State Recreation Area on Wednesday. This one's from KATU2. Man arrested on an arson charge after lighting leaf pile on fire in Oregon City. Quote, Oregon City police arrested a man Friday afternoon as they say he lit a pile of leaves on fire near the Clackamas County Community Solutions building. Police said they responded to the incident after a Clackamas County probation officer saw smoke coming from near the steps to the Community Solutions building and saw the suspect, 53-year-old Sammy Piet, standing near the fire, end quote. Oh, this doesn't end, folks. We've got more. From ABC 7, man charged with arson in connection to Oregon wildfire. Quote, Michael Jared Bacala, 41, was jailed on 2 charges of arson, 15 counts of criminal mischief, and 14 counts of reckless endangering for a fire that was set Tuesday in the Phoenix area in southern Oregon. The fire merged with the raging Alameda fire, and there is significant damage that the police are attributing to the fire. Significant damage, folks. Significant damage. And you should see what these people look like, guys. They look like, well, Antifa and Black Lives Matter rioters. Let's look at another one for some fun. According to Fox, Anita Esquivel was arrested in Monterey County, California, after starting fires near Highway 101, though the number of fires was not released. I wonder why it wasn't released. Guys, this list just goes on and on and on. So why the hell would we be told to stop spreading rumors about fires? Why are we being told that the sky is falling again in 2020 after everything we've been through together? It's politics, of course. It's politics. You didn't think it was something other than that, did you? I just wanted to bring all of those idiots to your attention so that you would have some ammunition when a lefty throws their climate change garbage in your direction. Now, we can agree that Earth does go through heating and cooling periods and cycles, and we can agree that the left and the right both have significantly different ways of looking at the solution to these climate cycles. But to intentionally frighten people, to scare people into voting for you, that's absolutely disgusting and absolutely disgraceful. These people are an absolute abomination, not only to the country, but to our species. It almost seems as if some of these folks are being funded somehow. I wonder who's paying for these arsonists. These are the same people supporting and being funded by terrorist organizations like Antifa and Black Lives Matter. What did I say? That Antifa and Black Lives Matter are terrorist groups? Why does that make you slightly uncomfortable? Well, too bad. You're going to have to get used to it. It needs to be said. And furthermore, it needs to be said by the President of the United States of America. I want to talk about the 2 Los Angeles County deputies that just got out of surgery last night. Now, thankfully, they're expected to live. We're talking about a 31-year-old mother to a 6-year-old boy and a 24-year-old young man with his future in the headlights. The 2 police officers were sitting in their patrol vehicle in Compton, of all places, when a man literally walks up to the window and opens fire at close range. And there's a video out there online and on most of the major news stations. So it's really disturbing to watch, but you'll get a pretty good idea of what happened. These 2 were practically rookies with 14 months under their belt. So here's where the Black Lives Matter protesters, the looters, the rioters, the anarchists, the terrorists, here's where they give us a glimpse behind the veil. I want to read you a part of this article. And folks, this will be slightly graphic. So from Evie Fordham of Fox News, protesters show up at LA hospital treating ambushed cops and yell, "I hope they fucking die." Quote, protesters reportedly shouting slogans like "death to the police" showed up to the Los Angeles area hospital that's treating 2 law enforcement officers who were ambushed and shot at close range on Saturday. Quote, to the protesters blocking the entrance and exit of the hospital emergency room yelling, "We hope they die," referring to 2 LA sheriffs ambushed today in Compton, do not block emergency entries and exits to the hospital. People's lives are at stake. when ambulances can't get through, end quote, the LA County Sheriff's Department wrote on Twitter early Sunday morning. That was yesterday, folks. These animals, these absolute psychopaths, were physically blocking the emergency room doors and roads, putting people's lives in danger and potentially leading to other people's deaths. Protesters literally could be heard shouting at one officer who appeared to point some sort of weapon at the protesters. Quote, "That's why you're dying one by one, you stupid fucks," a man can be heard saying. Quote, "Y'all gonna die one by one. This ain't gonna stop." Ladies and gentlemen, sorry for the language, but does anybody think this behavior is okay? Does anyone think that this isn't a form of terrorism? We heard the other week that people are intentionally targeting police officers now in Chicago and New York City. We've heard absolutely no condemnation by these groups like Black Lives Matter and Antifa towards their own protesters that are threatening this. And more importantly, the Democrats haven't condemned the groups by name. You know what the Democrats did do, though? More specifically, slow Joe Biden. He called for more gun control. Of course, threatened to take our guns away more, Joe. Sleepy Joe got on Twitter. Well, one of his many assistants probably did, because I'd bet $100 that Joe doesn't know how to use even the calculator on his phone. And they expect us, guys, they expect us to believe that he knows how to use Twitter, that it's actually him. But anyway, the tweet says, quote, "Weapons of war have no place in our communities, and we need to ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines." Guys, this is an ignorant statement that, again, proves how Democrats just love to take a horrible situation and twist it until they have some sort of crazy talking point. The left is 100% directly stoking the fires of this internal insurgency by not coming out and directly condemning Black Lives Matter and Antifa by name for not only supporting but partaking in these horrifying acts of violence across our country. What a disrespectful and absolutely disgusting human being, Joe Biden, tweeting about gun control after an assassination attempt on 2 cops in broad daylight. Shame on you, Biden, and shame on all the Democrats for condoning such violent tactics and strategy. As terrible as these recent events may be, Antifa and Black Lives Matter have a long-standing track record of violence and terror that goes well beyond the targeting of law enforcement officers and Trump supporters. Everyone must hear about these events and the need to stop these movements from doing further damage to our country, our communities, our children, and our fellow citizens. So before we get into that, I want to take a moment to thank you folks for taking the time to listen to the show. And if you have a moment, please let me know what you think by either commenting about us on social media, reviewing us on Apple, or just emailing me directly at jameslane@AmericanReveille.com. You can also check out the website, www.AmericanReveille.com, for sort of a central hub where you can find everything, well, American Reveille, like articles, podcast episodes, video productions, all that good stuff. And if you're new to the show, please understand that I fund this entire thing. And all I ask of you is to help me spread the word so we can help fight the good fight through the power of the truth. So, ladies and gentlemen, in the second half of the show, we're going to go further down the rabbit hole and find out just how evil and twisted Black Lives Matter and Antifa really are. Thanks, folks. We'll be right back.
American Reveille podcast with James Lane would like to take a moment to thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to tune into the show. It's because of great fans like you that we strive to deliver the best quality content one can create as fast as one can fling the pen. With that being said, a good little boy never misses his opportunity to sell himself, and though James would never ask you for your money, he would like to let you know that if you absolutely love this podcast, the writing, the art, its production, anything, please do us the personal favor of liking, sharing, tweeting, texting, and talking about this podcast. James Lane is a father, a husband, a U.S. Navy veteran, and is personally committed to the success of the American Reveille podcast. Please email James Lane directly at podcast@AmericanReveille.com, or please visit our website at www.AmericanReveille.com. Now, let's get back to the show.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the American Reveille podcast, and I am your host, James Lane. We've been talking about these horrible acts of violence and how Black Lives Matter and Antifa literally commit acts of terror, how these actions are supported by the left, and how dangerous it is nowadays to speak against such powerful groups. I want to read you this quote from the Stratford, Connecticut Democratic Town Committee as they condemned a tweet from a sergeant the other day who called Black Lives Matter a Marxist terrorist organization. And folks, he's not wrong. Here's what the condemnation had to say about Black Lives Matter as an organization. Quote, "They are aimed at movements to end systemic police brutality against black men, women, and children, and to silence those calling for such reform. This act of bad faith calls into serious question the suitability of the officers who stand against the goal," end quote. So, folks, this shows us some direct proof in this one instance, and there are hundreds of instances like this that have been going on, but in this instance, we can see how people really have no idea what Black Lives Matter actually is and actually stands for. Everyone seems to have choked down this lie that they fight against police brutality when in fact they're fighting for the direct overthrow of our government through the systematic destruction of our morals, values, and culture. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not making this up. We all know that it's right on the Black Lives Matter website. We all know where to go. We all know where to find it. We have to start using our eyes. What do we see when we see these peaceful protesters, and I say that loosely, in action? Do we see peaceful demonstrators calling for real change? Do we even see people with a message to get across? Folks, no. No, we don't. We see an angry, tireless mob being bussed and flown from city to city and state to state to incite violence, chaos, mayhem, madness, and destruction. We see domestic terrorists. Plain and simple, folks, this isn't a block party. This isn't some sort of Woodstock. This isn't some flower child festival. These are people looking to hurt, maim, murder, and burn everything in their path. We're watching companies bow to an organization out of fear and make gigantic donations to buy into the terrorists' good graces while innocent cops lose their lives. I came across Rudy Giuliani last month calling for the president to designate Black Lives Matter and Antifa as terrorist organizations, and rightfully so. Folks, we need to hear what he has to say. Quote, "I can't understand why major American corporations are giving money to Black Lives Matter, which is run by 3 communists who are avowed terrorists. The money that they get comes from a terrorist named Susan Rosenberg, who was convicted and sent to prison for 58 years for being involved in this conspiracy to kill cops. She's funneling the money to them. If you spend 10 minutes and read about Black Lives Matter, it's the end of our government. The president should consider very carefully declaring Black Lives Matter as a domestic terrorist organization." Today, they had 4 or 5 beatings that they took part in. They've been recorded saying the police officers should be murdered and killed. They're seen taking televisions. They're seen taking liquor. They're basically engaged in stealing. So this is an illegal organization, and their intent is to overthrow our government, end quote. So, folks, if you don't know, Rudy Giuliani is the guy who became mayor and initially cleaned up New York City back in the day. He was the tough-on-crime mayor that really changed the face of New York City. He's credited with turning the city around, and people really love him for it. It really would have been cool, by the way, and I know a lot of people agree with me, to see him run for mayor again to clean up this mess that de Blasio's been creating, but that's neither here nor there. When he makes an assertion such as this, I take him very seriously, as do many people. But for the sake of accuracy, I really wanted to verify what he was talking about. So I looked up Susan Rosenberg from the fact-finding site Influence Watch, and let me introduce you guys to this piece of work. Folks, Susan Rosenberg. Quote, Susan Rosenberg is a convicted domestic terrorist and radical left activist whose youth was spent protesting the Vietnam War and racism in America. A member of the Weather Underground and other radical organizations which used violence as a tool for political change, Rosenberg was sentenced to 58 years in federal prison after being arrested for the possession of explosives and weapons during the planning of several bombing operations. She was also a suspect in the 1981 armored car robbery, which left one guard and 2 officers dead. She was released in 2001 when then-President Bill Clinton commuted her sentence. Of course he did, guys. Why wouldn't the Clintons be involved in this shenanigan as well? So the commutation led to bipartisan criticism from Republican New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani and, get this, folks, U.S. Senator Chuck Schumer, as well as police officials. Rosenberg continued her radical activism through the publication of her 2011 book, An American Radical, and as the vice chair of the fiscal sponsor group, Thousand Currents. She also spent 12 years working for the left-of-center social activism group, American Jewish World Service, and co-founded the anti-prison group, National Council for Incarcerated and Formerly Incarcerated Women and Girls. From 2016 to 2020, and really quick, guys, before I continue, how does somebody like this even get the permission to even write a book? This is somebody who's responsible for the death of police officers, the planning of terrorist acts, and now this is a very rich person with book deals. I mean, that's something that really has to be considered, but let's continue for a second. From 2016 to 2020, Thousand Currents became one of America's most influential racial and social change organizations because it is Black Lives Matter Global Network's fiscal sponsor. There it is. As the group's fiscal sponsor, Thousand Currents handles Black Lives Matter's administrative and back-end work so the racial group can focus on its activism, protests, and riots. Folks, if you don't have goosebumps right now, then something may be the matter with you, because these are startling revelations, absolutely startling revelations that should be front page news. But instead, the news is telling us that the Nobel Peace Prize should be canceled. So we have this terrorist who's basically rescued by pedophile island frequent flyer Bill Clinton, who is now funding a sizable terrorist organization supported by Democrats in the United States of America. Nobody thinks this is strange? Nobody finds this to be weird at all. When I turn on the news, guys, I see stories of some of the worst journalism ever produced. Yet I can find some sprinkles of truth between the local news and some independent reporters on Twitter. Guys, we saw Marquise Love field goal kick a man in the head for Black Lives Matter. Remember that? He just ran up and kicked the guy in the face. He punted him in the face and knocked him out cold. He looked like he was dead, and he probably has brain damage. How about the 100+ days of riots in Portland, the destruction of Kenosha, the murders in New York City, the murders in Chicago, the dead little children, the babies, the shields, the Molotov cocktails? When does this group become persona non grata? And rightfully so. We already know about Antifa's violent history, but did you guys know now that Antifa operates globally? That's right. This group pretends to be an anti-fascist organization fighting invisible Nazis when, in fact, they're the ones who use Nazi-like tactics. These groups flood the streets with violence and propaganda across dozens of nations. And the front is quite simple, and the fact that people fall for it is absolutely mind-boggling. They literally named their group something simple and positive like Black Lives Matter or anti-fascism, and then these two groups basically convinced people that their actions and name match, when in fact they're hiding behind that name. It's a front, a scheme, a scam, a lie. Guys, according to the American Center for Democracy, Black Lives Matter, the group that's supporting arson, looting, rioting, violence, bombing, and murder, is deeply involved with the boycotts, divestment, and sanctions movement against Israel. We know that the founders of Black Lives Matter are known Marxists and most likely anti-Semites, so we should take this extremely serious. Folks, quote, organizations and activists participating in the delegitimization campaign against Israel support the boycotts, divestment, and sanctions BDS movement and expressly support U.S.-designed Palestinian terror organizations, have strategically entrenched themselves in partnerships with Black Lives Matter since its establishment in 2013. So, by successfully creating coalitions with Black Lives Matter, the delegitimization network has infiltrated and influenced the Black Lives Matter agenda to openly support BDS and other anti-Israel causes. These include an explicit call for the divestment from Israel, which was featured prominently in the 2016 Black Lives Matter platform, sending BLM delegations to the West Bank to protest the Israeli military and meeting with BDS leaders and convicted Palestinian terrorists. Several BLM founders and prominent leaders are connected to the delegitimization organizations, while these same leaders have gone beyond the call to divest from Israel or to oppose the United States military aid to Israel and have actually advocated for Palestinian terrorists and terror groups. Guys, in January 2015, Black Lives Matter co-founder Patrisse Cullors attended a Dream Defenders delegation featuring members of Black Lives Matter, Women's March organizer Carmen Perez, and leaders of Hands Up United, an organization formed to combat police violence in Ferguson, Missouri. In an interview with Ebony Magazine upon her return, Cullors called Israel an apartheid state, stating, "To deny this makes one complicit with Zionist violence. I believe the Black Lives Matter movement can benefit greatly by learning about the struggles outside of the U.S., but more particularly the Palestinian struggle. I want this trip to be an example for how Black folks and Arab communities can be in better solidarity with one another." Folks, it sounds like they're making allies with the wrong side of the fence, and I think we've heard enough, ladies and gentlemen. So let's cut to the chase. I mentioned in the 9/11 episode on Friday that these leftist groups have a direct connection to radical terrorist organizations, and I think the evidence is clear, concise, and abundant. We have these groups that are influencing and supporting violence and murder. They bail out criminals who rape, loot, and pillage, and they support rapists, drug addicts, and cop killers. They firebomb police stations, they brainwash our children, and they spew racist propaganda, all while chanting Black Lives Matter. They're funded by convicted terrorists who are connected to the left and were pardoned by Bill Clinton himself. The group has deep-rooted ties to anti-Israel, anti-American terrorist organizations, all while promoting socialism and calling for the downfall of capitalism and the downfall of the evil America. The attempted murder of 2 police officers took place, and BLM protesters chanted hate speech outside their hospital and blocked the entrances and exits. Black Lives Matter and Antifa spread nothing but fear, and if I haven't laid out enough evidence to label them as a terrorist organization, then you need to wake up and smell the coffee, comrade. When it comes to the spread of this anti-American ideology BS, it's starting to feel like we need to go find the sunglasses from that old Roddy Piper flick, They Live, because people are starting to act like they've been replaced by friggin' pod people. They're idealizing rapists, murderers, and thugs. What in the hell is wrong with these lefties? I don't know. It must be something in the veggie burgers. Anyway, folks, that's it for this episode. That's the 31st episode of the American Reveille podcast. American Reveille contributor Andrew Penn put out an article on Sunday worth a read called Yes, Peace Had Its Chance, and I put out an article yesterday called I Tried to Watch Cuties. Both articles are top-notch and well worth your time. Folks, please visit www.americanreveille.com for 100% free and full access to everything we've got. Please keep following along and spreading that word. Tell your mom, tell your dad, tell your friends, your kids, tell the dog, tell the gerbil, tell everybody that the American Reveille podcast is well worth their time. If you really want to make us happy, please take a minute or two to rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts or share us on social media, or both. I'm on Facebook, Parler, Twitter. I'm all over the place. Just check out the links in the description section below. And as always, you can reach me directly for questions, suggestions, feedback, whatever at jameslane@americanreveille.com. I would love to hear from you. I'm also looking for more writers and would love to work with some folks who are passionate and have less experience but have great ideas. So if you think you're onto something, shoot me an email. Again, that's jameslane@americanreveille.com. And yes, I'll take a wild card email or two if you feel you have a special skill to bring to the table. So with all that good stuff being said, ladies and gentlemen, keep fighting the good fight. I'll do the same on my end, and we'll meet back up here next week, same time, same place. Thanks again, folks. Peace.